He thought I could not hear him. He thought I was still the silent doll on the company brochure. At our anniversary dinner, my husband leaned in and sneered at his colleague, saying, "Watch this. She will never be here. But the board loves the pity story. Too bad for him." My cochlear implant had been working for 3 weeks. That night, I recorded every single word, and the next morning, I called the board. "My name is Faith Turner. I am 34 years old, and I am a ghost in my own life. On paper, I am the senior compliance officer at Helix Meridian Holdings, a massive investment firm that dominates the Chicago skyline. In reality, I am the company mascot. I am an inspiring story. I am the diversity hire who overcame tragedy to sit in a corner office with a view of the lake. For 9 years, silence was my geography. I lost my hearing at 25 to a brutal bout of meningitis that nearly took my life and settled for taking my world. One day I was listening to the rain hit my window, and the next, I was underwater. The doctors called it profound sensorineural hearing loss. I called it being buried alive. I had to learn to navigate the world all over again. I learned to read lips until my eyes burned from the strain. I learned American Sign Language. I learned to gauge the mood of a room by the vibration of footsteps on the floorboards and the tension in a jawline. I learned to live with the fact that people stopped talking to me and started talking around me, as if my inability to hear had somehow rendered me invisible. And then there was Logan. Logan Pierce is 38 years old, the chief financial officer of Helix Meridian, and the man the local business journals like to call a visionary. To me, he was simply the man who stayed. When the silence fell, other men might have walked away, daunted by the logistics of a disabled partner. Logan did not. He took night classes to learn to sign. He installed flashing light alerts for the doorbell and the fire alarm in our penthouse. He became my translator, my protector, my voice. He was perfect. He was the hero of my tragedy, or so I thought. 3 weeks ago, everything changed. I underwent an experimental surgery for a new type of advanced cochlear implant. It was a clinical trial, highly sensitive, and the success rates were volatile. My surgeon, Dr. Aris, was explicit. He told me that if the device worked, the return of sound would be overwhelming. He ordered me to keep the activation secret for the first month to monitor for neurological rejection, without the pressure of social expectations. He said I should pretend nothing had changed until we were certain the sounds were permanent. I remember waking up this morning. It was 6 o'clock. The light was gray and thin against the curtains. Usually, I wake up to the vibration of the alarm under my pillow. Today, I woke up to a hum. It was a low, rhythmic droning noise that seemed to drill right into my teeth. It took me a terrifying minute to realize it was the central air conditioning unit. Then came the other sounds, the coarse friction of sheets rustling against my legs, the distant, angry whine of a siren on the highway 10 floors down, the rush of water moving through pipes in the walls. It was a symphony. It was a headache. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever experienced. I lay there, tears pricking my eyes, listening to the steady, heavy rasp of Logan breathing beside me. He was asleep, his arm thrown over his eyes. I could hear the tiny whistle of air in his nose. I wanted to shake him awake. I wanted to scream that I could hear him, that the world was back, but I did not. I remembered the doctor's warning, but more than that, a strange, cold curiosity seized me. For 9 years, I had wondered what the world sounded like when I was in the room, but not truly present. What did people say when they thought the mute doll was on the shelf? I got out of bed and walked to the bathroom. I reached into the drawer and pulled out my old, non-functional hearing aids. The ones I wore for show because they made people feel more comfortable than the stark visibility of my deafness. I put them in. I looked at myself in the mirror. Brown eyes, soft chin, the face of a woman who needed protection. I decided then and there, I would stay silent, just for a little while longer. When I arrived at Helix Meridian later that morning, the noise of the lobby hit me like a physical blow. High heels clicking on marble, the chime of the elevator, the overlap of a dozen conversations. I kept my face smooth, offering a polite nod to the security guard. pretending I was still wrapped in my cotton wool world. My office is on the 42nd floor, near the executive suite. This is the domain of Marjorie Kane, our chairwoman. Marjorie is 70 years old, a hawk of a woman who built Helix from the ground up. She is obsessed with ethics, optics, and legacy. To her, I am a symbol of the company's inclusive soul. She likes to parade me at shareholder meetings. Look at us, she implies. We are cutthroat, but we have a heart. We employ the disabled. We nurture them. I sat at my desk, reviewing compliance reports for a new merger. When the door opened, I did not have to look up to know who it was. There she is, our silent warrior. The voice was loud, brash, and dripping with a condescension I had never heard before, only felt. It was Brent Cole, our chief operating officer. Brent is an ambitious man who treats the corporate ladder like a contact sport. He walked over and clapped a hand on my shoulder. A little too hard. I looked up and smiled, signing a greeting. Good morning, Brent. He chuckled, a wet, throaty sound. He turned to the person behind him. She has no idea we are cutting the budget for her department next quarter. Just look at that smile. Ignorance is bliss, right? My blood ran cold. I kept my smile frozen on my face. The person behind him laughed. It was a light, tinkling sound like breaking glass. Nina Brooks, my best friend, the director of public relations. Nina was the one who introduced me to Logan. She was the one who held my hand when I was diagnosed. She was the architect of the Faith and Logan brand. Don't be mean, Brent, Nina said, her voice smooth and syrupy. She walked around the desk and hugged me. I heard the rustle of her silk blouse near my ear. She is crucial for the annual report. I need her looking happy for the gala next month. The disability angle is polling really high with the Gen Z investors. I hugged her back, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Disability angle, polling. Was that all I was to her? A statistic. Is she coming to the rooftop tonight? Brent asked, leaning against my doorframe. Obviously, Nina replied, pulling away and singing Happy Anniversary to me with exaggerated, sloppy hand movements. Logan is pulling out all the stops. 5 years. It is a goldmine for the internal newsletter. Then, a third voice cut through the air, cool, low, and terrifyingly precise. Make sure she does not drink too much. We do not need her tipping over. It looks messy. Serena Vale, our general counsel. Serena is beautiful in a way that makes you feel inadequate just by standing near her. Sharp cheekbones, sharper eyes, and a mind like a steel trap. People always compare us. Serena was the fire to my ice, the shark to my dolphin. Logan had dated her briefly, years before me, a fact they both glossed over. She won't, Nina assured her. Faith is a good girl. She does what she is told. I watched them discuss me as if I were a piece of furniture. I saw their lips move, matching the words I was finally hearing. The cognitive dissonance made me dizzy. I wanted to vomit. I wanted to scream. Instead, I tilted my head and offered them a confused, innocent look, tapping my ear to remind them I could not hear. Oh, look, she is confused, Brent laughed. Someone interprets the poor thing. Logan appeared in the doorway then. He looked dashing in his charcoal suit, the very picture of the devoted husband. Hey, Logan said, his voice warm. He signed as he spoke. Perfect. Fluid movements. Ready for tonight. My love. Just telling her how jealous we are. Nina lied effortlessly. 5 years. You guys have goals. Logan smiled at me, a smile I had adored for half a decade. Just us tonight, he said, his voice dropping to a register that was meant to be intimate. He signed it too. Just you and me. No work. But then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and I heard him mutter under his breath, too low for anyone but a person with bionic hearing to catch. Christ, I hope this is over quickly. I have the merger call at 10. He looked back up, his face rearranging instantly into adoration. I love you. I signed back, I love you too. The lie tasted like ash in my mouth. That evening, I prepared dinner. I wore the emerald green dress Logan liked, the one that Nina said popped on camera. I pinned my hair up to expose the long, elegant line of my neck and the dummy hearing aids. I checked my real implant, hidden under a lock of hair behind my ear, ensuring the volume was set to maximum sensitivity. My phone buzzed on the vanity, a text from Nina. Can't wait to see photos. Enjoy your private night. We have a few tiny brand surprises planned for social media later. But don't worry about it, just look in love. I stared at the screen. Brand surprises. The phrase made my stomach turn. I looked at myself in the mirror. The woman staring back looked the same as she had yesterday, but she was not. Yesterday, she was a prop. Today, she was a spy. I grabbed my clutch. I made sure my phone was fully charged. I had a feeling I would need more than just my memory tonight. I walked out of the apartment, the sound of my own heels on the hardwood echoing in my ears, sharp and clear. It sounded like a countdown. The skyline of Chicago burned with a million electric eyes, a sprawled grid of amber and white light that stretched out beneath us like a motherboard. We were on the rooftop of the Summit Lounge, 40 floors up, encased in walls of seamless glass that supposedly cost $50,000 a panel. The air up here usually felt thin, but tonight it felt heavy, saturated with the scent of expensive beeswax candles and the metallic tang of adrenaline. I sat at the head of the table, my hands folded in my lap. To my right sat Logan. To my left were Nina, Brent, and Serena. It was supposed to be an intimate dinner, just the two of us, but the arrival of the others had been explained away by Nina as a spontaneous celebration of our love story. The table was set with crystal that caught the candlelight, fracturing it into tiny, sharp rainbows. For the first time in 9 years, I was not just seeing the scene, I was listening to it. The soundscape was violent. The wind whipped around the glass barriers with a low, mournful howl that I felt in my teeth. The ice in the silver bucket shifted with a wet crunch. The photographer, a shadow hired by the company, moved around the perimeter. I could hear the mechanical shutter of his camera. Click, whir, click. It sounded like the cocking of a tiny gun. Logan stood up. He tapped his knife against his champagne flute. The sound was a high-pitched ping that pierced right through my new auditory processing center, sharp as a needle. "Everyone," Logan began. His voice was rich, projecting effortlessly over the wind. It was the voice of a man used to commanding boardrooms. "Thank you for crashing our date." Laughter rippled around the table. It sounded jagged. Brent's laugh was a bark. Nina's was a trill. Serena did not laugh. She merely exhaled audibly. Logan looked down at me. His eyes were soft, crinkling at the corners in that way that usually made my knees weak. Now, hearing the slight rasp in his throat, the performative intake of breath before he spoke, I realized it was a script. 5 years, Logan said, raising his glass. 5 years ago, I married this incredible woman. People told us it would be hard. They said the silence would be a barrier. He paused for effect. But Faith, she does not need to hear me say, "I love you." She feels it. She listens with her heart, which is louder than any voice. A collective awe went up from the table. Nina dabbed at her eye. Though it was perfectly dry, the camera shutter went crazy. Click, click. I smiled. It was my trained smile. The one that said, "I am grateful just to be here." Inside. My stomach twisted. The phrase "listens with her heart" was something he had tested on a focus group 2 years ago. I remembered seeing the slide deck on his laptop. Then I saw it, propped up against the centerpiece of white lilies. Nina's phone was facing us. The screen was dim, but the red, live icon was pulsing in the corner. She was streaming this to the internal company network. We were not people tonight. We were content. I raised my glass to toast him. Keeping my eyes locked on his, I needed to play the part. I needed to be the doll. Logan leaned down to clink his glass against mine. The crystal rang out, a pure, clear note. He held the pose for the photographer. His face inches from mine, his smile beaming with devotion. Then, he turned his head slightly, just an inch, toward where Brent and Nina were sitting. He kept the smile plastered on his face, but he lowered his voice to a register he assumed was completely lost to me. It was a whisper, barely a breath, scratching against the wind. "Watch this," he murmured. The tone was not loving. It was boring. "She will never be her, but the board eats up this pity story with a spoon." My heart stopped. It literally missed a beat. The blood roared in my ears, competing with the wind, but the implant cut through the biological noise. The clarity was terrifying. I did not blink. I kept my smile fixed, rigid as a mask. My hand, trembling slightly, slipped under the heavy linen napkin in my lap. I found my phone. I knew the interface by touch. Swipe right, tap. The voice memo app opened. I hit the big red circle. Record. Logan sat back down, looking pleased with himself. The waiter poured more wine, a heavy, dark Cabernet. The glug, glug, glug of the liquid hitting the glass sounded obscene, like blood pumping from a wound. "Great performance, Logan," Brent said, his voice low, assuming the cone of silence protected them all. He took a sip of his drink. "Marjorie is going to love the photos. The stock dipped 2% yesterday. We need the human element to stabilize the narrative." "That is exactly why I married her," Logan said. He was cutting his steak, the knife scraping against the porcelain plate with a screech that made my teeth ache. "After that labor harassment scandal in 2019, I was toxic. I needed a saint. I needed someone quiet." He chuckled. It was a dark, wet sound. "And now?" Nina asked. She was checking the live stream numbers on a second phone hidden in her lap. "Engagement is up 30%. People are commenting that you are a modern-day saint. Logan, the executive with a heart of gold. We are launching the Deaf Angel campaign next week. Faith is going to be on billboards from here to Seattle." "Good," Logan said, chewing. "Because once the merger closes, I am going to need all that goodwill. The compliance audit on the Skyline deal is a mess." My breath hitched. The Skyline deal. I had signed off on those papers yesterday. "Do not worry about it," Logan continued, waving his fork. "I had her sign the restructuring documents this morning. If the SEC comes sniffing around about the missing funds, it is on her head. She is the compliance officer. Her signature is on the dotted line." "That is cold. Man," Brent laughed, but he sounded impressed. "Even for you." "She can't even hear what's being said." Logan said dismissively, "She just smiles and nods." I lay the papers in front of her. "Sign, trust me." And she signs. It's far too easy. I felt a physical pain in my chest, sharp and expanding, as if my ribs were breaking one by one. Every memory of the last 5 years, every gentle touch, every patient translation, every time he defended me against a rude waiter, it was all a long con. I was not his wife. I was his shield. "And what about Serena?" Nina asked, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Is she okay with playing second fiddle to the angel?" I shifted my gaze to Serena. She was looking out at the city lights, swirling her wine. She looked bored, detached, beautiful in a terrifying, sharp-edged way. "Serena understands the game," Logan said, glancing at her with a look that was raw with a hunger he never showed me. "Faith is soft. She is obedient. She is convenient to control. Serena." He laughed. "Serena was born to sit on the board, not to be a wife. Faith will never be her." There it was again. You will never be her. It was not just a comparison. It was a definition of my existence. I was in a negative space. I was in the absence of Serena. Serena finally turned her gaze to him. Her expression was unreadable. "I do not care who you play house with, Logan," she said. Her voice was low, smooth, like velvet over steel. "As long as everything blows up, the name on the indictment is not mine." "It won't be," Logan promised. "It will be Mrs. Faith Pierce, the poor, incompetent invalid who got in over her head." The recording timer on my phone read 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Something snapped inside me. It was quiet, like a thread breaking under tension. The fear evaporated. The shock hardened into something cold and heavy, like a stone in my stomach. I looked at the wine glass in front of me. It was full to the brim. The deep red liquid trembled slightly from the vibration of the train passing far below. I stood up. The movement was abrupt. The chair legs scraped loudly against the concrete floor. Screech! The table fell silent. Logan looked up, surprised. He started to sign, his hands moving in the air. "Are you okay? Honey, do you need the bathroom?" I did not look at his hands. I looked at his mouth. I looked at the lips that had just sentenced me to prison. I reached out and picked up my wine glass. I could feel the condensation on the bowl, cold against my fingertips. I walked around the table. My heels clicked on the floor. Click, clack. I stopped directly behind Logan's chair. He twisted around, his face a mask of confusion. "Faith," he said aloud, forgetting to sign. I tilted the glass. I did not splash it. I poured it. I poured it slowly, deliberately, directly onto the top of his perfectly gelled hair. The wine cascaded down. It ran over his forehead, into his eyes, down his cheeks like bloody tears. It soaked into the collar of his $3,000 Italian suit. The silence on the rooftop was absolute. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The photographer lowered his camera. Nina's mouth fell open. Brent looked like he had swallowed a fly. Logan sat there, frozen, the red liquid dripping off his nose. He sputtered, wiping his eyes, shock radiating off him in waves. He turned to look at me, his eyes wide, his mouth opening to yell, to demand what the hell was wrong with me. I leaned down. I brought my face close to his ear, just as he had done to me so many times when he wanted to keep secrets. I took a breath. I felt the air fill my lungs, expanding my ribcage. I summoned the voice I had not used in 9 years. It felt rusty, strange, but when it came out, it was steady. It was low. It was dangerous. "Are you sure you want to say those things in front of someone who can hear? Logan?" The sound of my own voice was the loudest thing on the roof, and as the color drained from his face, leaving him pale beneath the streaks of red wine, I knew the silence was over. The silence that followed my question was not the empty cotton wool silence I had lived in for 9 years. It was a heavy, suffocating vacuum, the kind that happens right before a bomb goes off. Logan stared at me. The red wine dripped from his chin onto his white shirt, blooming like a gunshot wound. His mouth opened and closed. He looked like a fish gasping on a dock. For 5 years, he had looked at me with pity, with condescension, with a performative sort of love. Now, for the first time, he looked at me with terror. "You can speak," he whispered. It was barely a breath. "I can hear," I corrected him. My voice felt foreign in my throat, vibrating against my collarbones, but it cut through the air like a blade. "I had the surgery 3 weeks ago. Logan, the experimental trial. Dr. Aris said I was a perfect candidate." Beside him, Nina made a small, choked sound. Her hand spasmed, and her phone, the one live-streaming our humiliation to the entire company, slipped from her fingers. It hit the ceramic tile of the rooftop floor with a crack that sounded like a pistol shot. The screen shattered, the feed died, but the damage was done. 3 weeks, Brent asked. His face was pale, his eyes darting between me and Logan. "You have been listening for 3 weeks. "Long enough," I said. I kept my eyes locked on Logan. "Long enough to hear you practice your speech in the shower. Long enough to hear you laughing on the phone with your broker about the offshore accounts. And certainly long enough to record what you just said about making me your scapegoat." I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. The recording app was still running. I tapped the screen to stop it. The silence of the interface felt final. "You recorded us," Nina screeched. Her mask of the supportive best friend had dissolved, leaving behind panic. "Faith, that is illegal. In Illinois, that is a 2-party consent wiretap violation. You cannot use that—" "Actually," Serena said. Her voice was calm, cutting through Nina's hysteria. She took a sip of her wine, her eyes assessing me with a new, cold respect. "The Illinois Eavesdropping Act has an exemption if the recording party has reasonable suspicion that a crime is about to be committed against them. Conspiracy to commit fraud and obstruction of justice, I would say she is in the clear. Logan whipped his head toward Serena. Whose side are you on? My own, Serena replied simply. She looked at me. Run, Faith. It was the only honest advice anyone at that table had ever given me. I looked down at my left hand. The diamond on my finger was massive, a symbol of Logan's success, bought with money he was stealing, worn by a woman he intended to send to prison. It felt heavy. It felt like a shackle. I pulled it off. My knuckles scraped against the metal. I dropped it into the puddle of wine on the table. It landed with a wet plop, splashing red droplets onto Logan's cuff. Happy anniversary, Logan, I said. Then I turned and walked away. Faith, wait, Logan's voice cracked. I heard the scrape of his chair as he scrambled up. Baby, please, it was a joke. It was just locker room talk. I did not stop. I walked past the stunned photographer. I walked past the hostess stand where the girl looked at me with wide, frightened eyes. I pushed open the heavy glass doors and stepped into the elevator. As the doors slid shut, I saw Logan being restrained by a waiter as he tried to chase me, slipping on the wine-slicked floor. The elevator ride down was 40 floors of nausea. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I could hear it in my ears. A wet, rhythmic thumping. Thump, 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 thump. When the doors opened to the lobby, I ran. I burst out onto the streets of Chicago, and the world screamed at me. For 9 years. The city had been a silent movie. Flashing lights, moving mouths, the vibration of the L train under my feet. Now, it was a sonic assault. A taxi horn blasted 3 feet away from me, and I flinched, covering my ears. The screech of bus brakes sounded like a banshee. A group of tourists laughing on the corner sounded jagged and harsh. The wind off the lake roared like a jet engine. It was too much. It was overwhelming. It hurt, but I did not stop running. I flagged down a cab, my hands shaking so badly I could barely open the door. Union Station, I gasped to the driver. Just get me away from here. I did not go home. I could not go to the penthouse. That place was a cage wired with cameras and sensors that Logan controlled. I had the driver drop me off at a budget hotel 2 blocks from the train station, a place with flickering neon lights and a lobby that smelled of stale cigarette smoke and lemon cleaner. I paid cash. I checked into room 304. The room was small and beige. The carpet was sticky, but it had a deadbolt. I locked the door, threw the chain, and collapsed onto the bed. I plugged my phone into the wall charger because the battery was dying, and then I sat there, trembling. I played the recording. I needed to hear it again. I needed to be sure I had not hallucinated the cruelty. Logan's voice is tinny and small through the speaker. She will never be her. Faith is soft. She is obedient. I dry heaved. I ran to the bathroom and retched into the toilet until my throat burned. I washed my face with cold water, staring at the woman in the mirror. Her eyes were red. Her hair was coming loose. She looked terrified. Faith is soft. No, I whispered to the mirror. Not anymore. My phone began to buzz. It vibrated against the cheap particle board nightstand with an angry, insistent drill. Buzz, buzz, buzz. I walked over and looked at the screen. Logan Faith. Pick up. You are having a mental break. The surgery messed with your head. I love you. Come home. Logan. Do not do this. You are breaching your NDA regarding company secrets. Serena is drafting a cease and desist right now. Logan. If you release that recording, I will bury you. You signed the compliance docs. You are the one going to jail, not me. Nina Faithy. Please. I am so sorry. I was just doing my job. We can fix this. The PR team can spin it as a reaction to medication. Just call me. Brent. Be smart. Faith. Think about your career. Who is going to hire a compliance officer who wires her own husband? An email notification popped up. Then another. Internal alerts from the Helix server. Urgent media inquiry regarding rooftop incident. Urgent compliance protocol breach. I was drowning in the noise of their panic. I reached out to turn the phone off, to sever the connection. When a new email slid into the notification bar, the sender name made my hand freeze. Marjorie Kane. Subject: We need to talk. Off the record. I tapped it open. My breath hitching. Marjorie Kane was the chairwoman. She was the Iron Lady of Chicago finance. She did not send emails at 11 o'clock at night. The message was sparse. No signature. No pleasantries. Do not answer Logan. Do not go home. Do not speak to the press tonight. Meet me tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock at the private club on Wacker Drive. Bring whatever you have. If you want to survive this, you need to trust me, not him. I stared at the screen. Was this a trap? Was she circling the wagons to protect her CFO? Or was this the lifeline I needed before I could decide? The phone rang. An unknown number. I stared at it. It rang 4 times. 5. On the 6th ring, I picked up. I did not speak. I just listened. Faith Turner. It was a woman's voice. Sharp, professional, but with an edge of urgency. Who is this? I asked. My name is Dana Ruiz, the woman said. I am a whistleblower attorney, a friend of yours from the old IT department. Tariq called me 10 minutes ago. He said you might need help. Tariq. The systems administrator who had been fired last year for raising questions about server security. I had brought him coffee on his last day. I had signed, I'm sorry to him. Tariq called you, I asked. He saw the live stream before it cut out. Dana said, Listen to me carefully. Faith, you are in immediate danger, legal danger. If what I heard on that feed is true, and your husband has been using your signature on compliance documents, you are not just a victim in a divorce case. You are the primary suspect in a federal fraud investigation. I sank onto the edge of the bed. I did not know, I whispered. I never read them. He told me they were standard, and he translated for me. Ignorance is not a defense in white-collar crime. Dana cut in. Not when you are the compliance officer. They built the frame around you. Faith, it is perfect. The deaf wife, grateful for the job, incompetent but loyal. If Helix goes down, they will throw you to the wolves to save the stock price. What do? I asked. My voice broke. You stop acting like a wife, Dana said, and you start acting like a witness. If you want to survive, we cannot just prove Logan is a bad husband. That is divorce court stuff. We have to prove the entire system was designed to use your disability as a shield for corporate malfeasance. We have to burn the shield. Marjorie Kane emailed me, I said. There was a pause on the line. Marjorie, Dana asked. Interesting. She protects the company, not the people. If she is reaching out, she smells blood in the water. Go to the meeting, but do not sign anything, and keep your recording device running. I will meet you afterward. We hung up. The room was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet. It was heavy with threat. I reached up behind my ear. The external processor of the cochlear implant felt warm against my skin. It was a miracle of engineering, a bridge back to the world of the living. But right now, the world is too loud. I unhooked the device. I pulled the magnet from my scalp. Instant silence. The roar of the traffic vanished. The hum of the refrigerator died. The buzzing of the notifications ceased. I was back in the cotton wool, but this time, I was not afraid of it. I lay back on the pillows, staring at the water stain on the ceiling. I pressed my hand to my chest. I could feel the thumping of my heart. Thump, thump. I closed my eyes. In the silence, my thoughts were clearer than they had been in years. There was no Logan translating for me, no Nina spinning the narrative, no Serena interpreting the law. Just me. I opened my mouth and spoke into the darkness. I could not hear my own voice, but I felt the vibration in my throat. I felt the shape of the words on my tongue. I will no longer be silent. It was a promise. It was a threat. And tomorrow, I would make sure they heard it. I sat cross-legged on the stiff, synthetic bedspread of the hotel room, the blue light of my laptop screen the only illumination in the dark. The air conditioner rattled in the window unit, a constant, grinding hum that I could now hear with perfect clarity. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. I had not slept. I did not want to sleep. Sleep was for the innocent, and as of 3 hours ago, I had learned that I was likely the prime suspect in a massive corporate fraud. I opened a blank document. I stared at the white cursor blinking against the black void. Blink, blink, blink. It looked like a heartbeat. I typed a single word in capital letters at the top of the page. Listen. It was not a file for audio recordings. It was an inventory. It was a kill list. I needed to organize the chaos in my head into columns and rows. I needed to think like the compliance officer I was supposed to be, rather than the duped wife I actually was. I began to type, my fingers flying across the keys, the plastic clack, clack, clack sound satisfyingly aggressive. Subject 1, Logan Pierce, role husband, CFO, architect. Subject 2, Nina Brooks, role best friend, director of PR, the handler. Subject 3, Serena Vale, role general counsel, the standard, the her. I could never be. Subject 4, Brent Cole, role COO, the accomplice. I looked at the names. They looked like a cast list for a bad play. I forced my mind backward, excavating the memories of the last 5 years, stripping away the layer of romantic gloss I had painted over them. I looked at the raw data. I remembered a Tuesday morning 2 years ago. Logan had rushed into the kitchen while I was making coffee. He was late, his tie undone, looking frantic. He had slid a stack of papers across the granite island, just standard disclosure forms for the audit committee. He had signed, his hands moving too fast, sloppy. I already checked them. Just sign here, here, and here. We are late. I had signed. I smiled and signed my name. Faith Turner. Pierce, in blue ink. I remembered thinking how important I felt, helping him. I typed into the document, June 2023, quarterly audit disclosure, signed without review, translator Logan. I remembered the day Nina took me to lunch to celebrate my promotion to senior compliance officer. I had asked her why they gave it to me when I felt underqualified. Nina had squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with what I thought was pride. Because you are trustworthy, Faith. People believe in you. You are the moral compass of Helix. I typed. Promotion was not merit-based. Promotion was strategic placement of a scapegoat. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was Dana Ruiz. She had asked me to send her my digital access keys to the Helix server, something I could do remotely since I was technically still an employee. I am in, Dana said. Her voice was tinny through the phone speaker, but clear. Faith, are you looking at the screen? Yes, I said. I am cross-referencing the public filings Helix submitted to the SEC last year against the internal metadata, Dana said. I could hear her typing furiously in the background. It is worse than we thought. There are 6 major compliance reports certifying that the shadow fund and internal investment vehicle was strictly regulated and audit compliant. Your electronic signature is on every single one of them. I never saw those reports, I said, my voice cold. I verify employee trading protocols. I do not touch investment vehicles. The logs say you accessed them, Dana replied. Or rather, someone logged in with your credentials at 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday. Where were you on the second Saturday of last November? I closed my eyes. I was at a fundraising gala for the Deaf Children's Alliance. Logan stayed home. He said he had a migraine. He did not have a migraine, Dana said grimly. He was logging into your account to approve his own embezzlement. You are the perfect patsy. Faith, you are the clean signature. You have no history of misconduct. You are disabled, which makes you sympathetic but also easy to dismiss as incompetent if the heat turns up. They built a firewall out of your reputation. Is there more? I asked. Hold on, Dana said. I am patching in someone. He reached out to me after he saw the social media explosion about the rooftop. You know Tariq? The systems administrator, I said. He was fired for incompetence. He was fired because he found the back door, a male voice interrupted. It was Tariq. He sounded nervous, his voice low. Hello, Faith. I am sorry about all this. Tell me what you know. Tariq, I said. It is a churning scheme. Tariq explained rapidly. Logan and Brent move client money into high-risk derivatives through shell companies. They skim the transaction fees millions of dollars and then move the principal back before the quarter closes. If the bets pay off, they keep the profit. If they lose, the company eats the debt. But lately, they have been losing. That is why they need the merger with Skyline. They need fresh capital to cover a $40 million hole in the balance sheet. And Serena, I asked, where does she fit in? Logan said she would never be his wife because she belongs on the board. Serena found out about the churning 18 months ago, Tariq said. She was going to report it. She drafted the memo, but she never sent it. Why? Because Logan found out about her brother. Tariq said, her brother is in a private sanatorium in Switzerland, very expensive, paid for by a trust that, let us just say, has some tax irregularities. Logan threatened to expose the tax evasion and cut off the funding for her brother's care. It was a stalemate, mutually assured destruction. She keeps his secrets. He guarantees her a seat on the board and keeps her brother safe. I typed into my document Serena Vale. Motive blackmail, leveraged by family. It made sense. The coldness, the distance. She hated Logan, but she was tethered to him. That explained the line. As long as the name on the indictment is not mine. There is one more thing, Tariq said, his voice hesitant. I dug into the HR archives, the recruitment logs. What about them? You joined Helix 5 years ago. Tariq said, you were referred to by an external headhunter, but the headhunter's fee was paid out of the PR budget, not HR, and the invoice was signed by Nina Brooks. I frowned. Nina, no. I met Nina after I started working there. I met Logan before that. We met at a silent auction for the hearing impaired. It was accidental. He spilled his drink on me. Faith, Tariq said gently, the invoice date is 2 months before you met Logan. The line item on the budget is labeled Project Dove. They did not just find you, they scouted you. Nina found a profile that fit the empathy gap the company was facing. They needed a deaf woman to soften the corporate image. The meeting at the auction. It was staged. Logan did not spill his drink by accident. He was following a script. The air left my lungs. I sat there, paralyzed. For 5 years, I had believed in a fairy tale. I believed that a handsome, successful man had seen past my disability to love the woman beneath. I believed that fate had brought us together in a crowded room. It was not fate. It was a casting call. I was not a wife. I was a prop. I was Project Dove. I felt a laugh bubble up in my throat. Jagged and sharp. It was hysterical. Ugly. Nina, my best friend, the woman who held my hand when I cried about feeling isolated. She had not been comforting a friend. She had been managing an asset. Faith. Dana's voice cut through the static. Are you still there? I am here, I said. My voice sounded different to my own ears, harder. So, what is the play? If I run, I look guilty. If I stay, they frame me. If you run, the narrative is yours to lose, Dana said. Logan is already spinning this. He is telling the board you are unstable, that the surgery caused a psychotic break, that you are paranoid. If you disappear, you prove him right. So I go back, I said. You go back, Dana agreed. But not as Faith the victim. You go back as a ghost. You need physical evidence. We have the recording. But that is inadmissible in some contexts, and he can claim it was doctored. We need the original documents. We need the Project Dove file. We need the hard drive where Logan keeps the shadow ledgers. He keeps it in his safe at the office, I said. He thinks I do not know the combination. He used to open it in front of me because he thought I could not hear the beeps of the keypad. Can you get it? I can try, I said. You have to be careful, Dana warned. Marjorie Kane wants to meet you. Use that. But remember, Marjorie protects the hive, not the bee. She will throw Logan under the bus if the evidence is undeniable. But if there is any doubt, she will crush you to save the stock price. I understand, I said. I looked at the messy bed. On the bedside table sat my old hearing aids, the plastic, non-functional dummies I had worn for years, because Logan said they looked softer than the cochlear processor. I reached out and picked them up. Dana, I said. I am going to the meeting tomorrow, and then I am going to the office. Okay, keep your phone recording. I will do better than that, I said. I am going to wear the dummies. What? They think I am deaf, I said. They think the surgery might have failed, or that I am confused, or that I only hear bits and pieces. I am going to let them believe it. I am going to put these useless pieces of plastic in my ears, and I am going to let them talk about me while I am standing right there. Silence as a weapon, Dana said quietly. I like it. I hung up. I looked at the laptop screen. The cursor was still blinking. I highlighted the file name, Listen. I backspaced. I typed a new title, Project Dove Reclaimed. Then, under it, I typed the subtitle of my operation, You Will Never Be Her, but I Will Be the One You Hear. I shut the laptop. The snap of the lid closing echoed in the silent room like a judge's gavel. I lay down in the dark, my eyes wide open, waiting for the sun to rise over the city that had tried to swallow me whole. I was ready to chew my way out. The lobby of Helix Meridian was a cathedral of glass and steel, a monument to transparency that hid 1,000 dirty secrets. I walked through the revolving doors at 9 o'clock sharp. I was wearing my slate gray suit, the one I usually saved for audit meetings, and my hair was pulled back in a severe bun, behind my left ear, hidden by a strategic lock of hair. The cochlear processor was humming. Set to maximum sensitivity, in my ears, I wore the dummy hearing aids, the useless pieces of plastic that signaled to the world I am broken. You are safe. The reaction was immediate. Usually, when I walk in, people smile. The security guard waves. The receptionists offer a bright, exaggerated, good morning. Today, the atmosphere was different. As I crossed the polished marble floor, heads turned, a group of analysts standing near the coffee cart stopped talking mid-sentence. I could hear the sharp intake of breath from the receptionist. Is that her? A whisper floated from the elevator bank. The one from the video. Shh, she might see you. Another voice hissed. She is deaf, idiot. She cannot hear us. I kept my face impassive, staring straight ahead, but inside, I was recording everything. The click of heels, the rustle of newspapers, the low frequency of gossip vibrating through the atrium. They looked at me with a mix of pity and morbid curiosity, like onlookers at a car crash. I pressed the button for the 42nd floor. The elevator doors were about to close when a hand jammed between them. They bounced back open. Logan stood there. He looked like he had not slept. His eyes were rimmed with red. His tie was slightly askew, and the smell of stale coffee and Altoids clung to him. But the moment he saw me, the mask slammed down. He arranged his face into an expression of heartbroken concern. Faith, he breathed. He stepped into the elevator and hit the emergency stop button. The car jolted to a halt between floors. Logan, I said. I pitched my voice to be slightly too loud. Slightly flat, the deaf voice I had worked so hard to train out of myself with speech therapy, now brought back as camouflage. Why did you stop the elevator? Baby, he said. Reaching for my hands, I let him take them. His palms were damp. Thank God you are here. I was so worried. You disappeared last night. You are not answering my texts. He started to sign as he spoke. His movements jerky and frantic. Where were you? I was scared. I pulled my hands away and tapped my ear. The implant, I lied, putting a tremor of distress into my voice. It is buzzing, static. I can only hear pieces. It is failing. Logan, I think the stress shorted it out. Relief washed over his face so plainly it was insulting. He thought I was losing it again. He thought the threat was receding back into the silence. Oh, honey, he said. His voice dropped to that patronizing register he used for children and pets. That is what I tried to tell you. The doctor said this would happen. Sensory overload. Paranoia. You misunderstood everything last night. He signed. You misunderstood. It was a mistake. Misunderstood. I asked, widening my eyes innocently. You said something about a pity story. No, Logan said quickly. He leaned in close, invading my personal space. I was quoting a competitor. Faith, I was telling Brent what they say about us. I was defending you, but your brain scrambled the signals. You are in shock. He signed, I was defending you. I love you. I looked at his hands forming the shape of love, then at his lips spinning the lie. The dissonance made my stomach turn, but I forced a confused nod. I slipped my hand into my pocket and tapped the record button on my phone. But the wine, I said. I poured wine on you. You were hysterical, Logan said soothingly. But we can fix this. We just need to get you home. You need rest. I will tell HR you are taking a medical leave. No, I said firmly. I have a meeting with HR. I need to explain. Logan's eyes narrowed. Explain what? That I am confused. I lied. That I need help understanding my role. He studied me for a second. He saw the hearing aids. He saw the confusion in my eyes. He bought it. Okay, he said, exhaling a long breath. Okay, go to HR, but do not sign anything until I get there. I will protect you, Faith. I always do. He released the emergency button. The elevator hummed back to life. As we rose, he muttered under his breath, too low for a normal ear, but loud and clear to me. Christ, I need to get her sedated before she talks to the SEC. I stepped out on the 42nd floor and walked straight to the office of the HR director, a nervous man named Marcus who always sweated through his shirts. Faith, Marcus said. Standing up as I entered, he looked terrified. I saw the footage, the clip that is circulating. I sat down. I placed my phone on the desk, face down. I want to file a formal complaint, I said. My voice is steady now. I dropped the deaf accent. Marcus blinked. A complaint against whom? Against the company, I said. For creating a hostile work environment based on disability exploitation, I have been used as a prop for marketing campaigns I did not consent to. My image is being used to sell a narrative of corporate charity that is degrading. And last night, I paused. I reached into my bag and pulled out a USB drive. I had transferred a snippet of the rooftop recording, just the part where Nina talks about the Deaf Angel campaign. Last night, I learned that my employment here might be contingent on my disability, not my skills, I said. I believe that is a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Marcus went pale. He knew exactly what a discrimination lawsuit from a sympathetic, disabled woman would do to the stock price. It would be a nuclear event. Faith, please, Marcus stammered. We value you. This is a misunderstanding. Perhaps we should put you on paid administrative leave, full salary. Of course. Take a month. Go to a spa. Let us investigate this internally. They wanted to silence me with money. They wanted me out of the building so they could scrub the servers. No, I said. Marcus stopped. Excuse me. I am not taking leave, I said. I leaned forward. I am the senior compliance officer. I am the only person in this building who has not been compromised by whatever game Logan and Brent are playing. If you send me home, you are obstructing a compliance review. Do you want that on your record? Marcus, when the federal investigators come, do you want to be the one who fired the whistleblower? Marcus swallowed hard. Adam's apple bobbed. Whistleblower Faith, are you saying? I am saying I am going back to my desk, I said, and I am going to do my job, unless you want to fire me right now. He did not dare. Fine, Marcus whispered. But please, keep the door closed. I stood up and walked out. The adrenaline was coursing through me like ice water. I felt sharp. I felt lethal. I walked down the corridor toward my office. As I passed the break room, I heard voices. I slowed down, pretending to check a message on my phone. It was Logan and Brent. They were standing by the espresso machine, their backs to the door. She is playing dumb, Brent hissed. I do not like it. Did you see her eyes? They were not dead. They were tracking. She is fried, Brent, Logan replied, sounding exhausted. The surgery failed. She said she hears static. She is just scared. I can manage her. I just need a few days to get her to sign the retroactive approval for the Skyline merger funds. We do not have a few days, Brent snapped. The audit committee meets on Friday. If she digs into the books, if she sees the shadow transfers, we are both dead, physically and legally. She won't, Logan said. I will take her to dinner tonight. Make her feel safe. She will sign whatever I put in front of her. She always does. I walked past the door, my heels clicking rhythmically on the floor. Click, clack, click, clack. I entered my office and closed the door. I locked it. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from rage. She will sign whatever I put in front of her. I opened my secure email client. I composed a new message. Recipients: Dana Ruiz and Marjorie Kane. Subject: preliminary review of compliance irregularities. Confidential. I typed fast. Dear Ms. Kane, following our correspondence, I am submitting a preliminary summary of unauthorized compliance overrides within the Finance Department. It appears that my digital signature has been used to authenticate transfers to unlisted entities without my knowledge or review. This pattern suggests a systematic exploitation of my disability to bypass internal controls. I have physical evidence of these overrides. I also have witness testimony regarding the intent to defraud. I am not leaving the building. I am securing the files now. Regards, Faith Turner. I hit send. 10 minutes later, a chime sounded on every computer on the floor. It was a company-wide alert. From Office of the Chairwoman to all staff subject, immediate compliance review. Effective immediately. All external fund transfers require triple authentication. The Compliance Department is conducting a mandatory audit of all active accounts. Please cooperate fully with Mrs. Turner and her team. I looked through the glass wall of my office. Across the trading floor, I saw Logan's office door fly open. He stormed out, his face a mask of fury. He looked at his phone. Then he looked across the sea of cubicles. Our eyes met. I did not look away. I did not smile. I just tapped my ear. A mock salute. I hear you. He froze. For the first time, he realized the ghost in the machine was not a glitch. It was me. I turned back to my screen. The fire was lit. Now, all I had to do was watch them burn. The Velvet Hour was a speakeasy tucked behind a falafel shop on Kinsey Street. It used to be our place, mine and Nina's. We had spent countless Friday nights huddled in the velvet booth in the back, drinking gin fizzes and dissecting the men in our lives. We had cried over bad haircuts there. We had celebrated my engagement there. It was the sanctuary of our sisterhood. Now, it felt like a crime scene. I sat in the same booth, but the velvet felt itchy against my legs. I ordered sparkling water. I needed to be sharp. I checked my watch. 7 o'clock. Nina arrived 12 minutes late. She looked like a car crash in designer clothes. Usually, Nina was polished to a terrifying sheen. Every hair in place, her makeup armor-plated. Tonight, she looked frayed. Her eyeliner was smudged at the corners, as if she had been crying and hastily tried to fix it. Her blazer was buttoned wrong. She looked around the dim bar with the frantic energy of a trapped animal before her eyes landed on me. She rushed over, sliding into the booth opposite me. The smell of stale cigarettes and expensive perfume hit me. "Faith," she breathed. She reached for my hands. "Oh God. Faith, I have been calling you all day. Why did you not answer?" I pulled my hands away and placed them in my lap. I looked at her. I really looked at her. For the first time, I did not see my best friend. I saw a PR executive managing a crisis. "I have been busy," I said. My voice was cool, level. I was not wearing the dummy hearing aids tonight. I wanted her to know that I heard every breath she took. "I bet," Nina said, letting out a ragged laugh. She signaled the waiter for a vodka martini. Extra dirty. HR grilled me for 4 hours this morning. 4 hours, Faith. They are threatening to fire me for the live stream. They said I violated the privacy policy. Can you believe that, after everything I have done for that company? She leaned in, her eyes pleading. "You have to tell them I had your consent. You have to tell them we planned it. If you say it was a mutual PR stunt, they will back off. Please, I cannot lose this job. My mortgage is huge." I watched her spin the narrative. Even now, with the noose tightening. She was trying to use me. She was trying to turn me into her shield again. "You want me to lie for you," I stated. "It is not a lie," Nina insisted, her voice rising. "I was just following the brief. Logan told me to push the devoted wife angle. I was just doing my job. Faith, I am a victim here too. Logan manipulated both of us." "Is that so?" I asked. I reached into my bag and pulled out my tablet. I placed it on the table between us. The screen glowed in the dim light. "I did some reading last night," I said. "Dana Ruiz helped me decrypt some of the archived marketing proposals on the shared drive. You know, the ones from 2 years ago." Nina went still. The color drained from her face, leaving her foundation looking like a mask of chalk. I tapped the screen. An email opened. To Logan Pierce. From Nina Brooks. Date August 12, 2023. Subject strategy proposal. The silent asset. I began to read aloud. The subject's disability offers a unique ROI for the brand. By positioning Faith as the silent heart of Helix, we can neutralize the negative press from the labor scandal. She is an emotional brand asset. She projects vulnerability and loyalty traits the public feels Helix lacks. If we execute the deaf angel narrative correctly, engagement could rise by 40% in Q3. I stopped reading. I looked up at her. "Emotional brand asset," I repeated. "That is what I was to you, not a friend, an asset, a line item on a spreadsheet." Nina stared at the table. Her hands were trembling. She picked up her martini glass, but she could not bring it to her lips. She set it back down with a clatter. "It was just business," she whispered. Her voice was small, stripped of its usual bravado. "Business?" I asked. "You came to my house. You ate dinner with my mother. You held my hand when I thought I was going crazy from the isolation. Was that billable hours?" "Nina, did you charge Logan overtime for comforting the crying deaf girl?" Nina looked up then. Her eyes were wet, but there was no remorse in them, only desperation. "You do not understand. You were born rich. Faith, you had a safety net. I had nothing. Logan promised me stock options. He promised me the VP of Communications chair if the campaign succeeded. I needed that promotion. I needed the money." "So you sold me," I said. "For stock options?" "I made you famous," Nina snapped, a flash of her old arrogance returning. "I made everyone love you. Before me, you were just a disabled compliance officer in a back office. I made you a star. I gave you a platform. You should be thanking me." It was breathtaking. The narcissism was so pure it was almost impressive. "I never wanted to be a star," I said quietly. "I wanted to be a person." I swiped the screen of the tablet. A new image appeared. It was a screenshot of a folder directory. "Now," I said, "let us talk about this." Nina frowned, squinting at the screen. Then her eyes went wide. "How did you get that?" she hissed. "Tariq," I said. "He is very good at finding things that people think are hidden. This is a folder on your private drive titled Doomsday. It is encrypted." Nina swallowed hard. She looked around the bar to make sure no one was listening. "I am not stupid," she muttered. "I knew Logan was dangerous. I knew eventually he would try to screw me over on the stock options. I needed insurance." "What is in the folder?" "Nina." "Everything," she said. "Emails. The original photos of him meeting with the shell company directors. Modified financial reports he asked me to Photoshop for the investor deck. Audio recordings of him admitting the charity gala was a money laundering front." My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. This was the smoking gun. "Give it to me," I said. Nina laughed. It was a brittle, ugly sound. "No way. That drive is my leverage. It is the only reason Logan has not fired me yet. It is my severance package." "It is evidence of a felony," I corrected her, "and you are currently an accessory to fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement." I leaned forward. "Here is the deal. Nina, you have 2 choices. Choice A, you give me the password to that folder right now. You turn state's witness. Dana cuts a deal for you. You walk away with your freedom. maybe a little probation. And choice B? She asked, sneering. Choice B, I said. I sent the board the full audio recording from the rooftop. Specifically, the part where Logan says he's going to frame me for federal crimes. And you laugh. I checked the statutes. Nina, in Illinois, that makes you a co-conspirator. You will not just lose your job, you will go to prison. I tapped the table. Witness or accomplice, decide. Nina stared at me. She looked at the tablet. She looked at her untouched martini. I could see the calculations running behind her eyes. She was a survivor. She would always choose her own skin. She reached into her purse. She pulled out a small, silver USB drive. She slammed it onto the table. The password is your birthday, she spat. Irony, right? I picked up the drive. It felt cold and heavy in my hand. I dropped it into my pocket. Thank you, I said. I stood up. Nina looked up at me. Her face twisted into a sneer. Ugly and raw. You think you have won, she said, her voice dripping with venom. You think because you have the drive, you are powerful now. You are nothing. Faith. You are a damaged little bird that we dressed up in feathers. She stood up too, leaning across the table. Do you want to know the truth? Even if you destroy Logan, even if you burn the company to the ground, you will never be Serena. You were born to be beneath people like us. The board will never let you climb. You are just the help. The words hung in the air between us. You will never be Serena. I looked at her. I saw the fear behind the hate. I saw a woman who had sold her soul for a seat at a table where she was never truly welcome. You are right, I said softly. I will never be Serena. And thank God for that, because when I look in the mirror, I do not see a monster. I turned and walked out of the bar. I did not go home. I went straight to a FedEx office that was open 24 hours. I met Dana there. Did you get it? Dana asked. I handed her the drive. It is all there. The password is my birthday. Dana plugged it into her secure laptop. She scanned the files. Her eyes widened. Jackpot. This is the entire fraud timeline. We have him. Good, I said. But we are not done. I want to destroy the narrative before we destroy the man. What do you mean? Nina built the Deaf Angel brand. I said. She used it to secure the contract with Skyline Aero. They are Helix's biggest client. They pride themselves on ethical partnerships. Dana smiled. It was a shark's smile. I see where you are going. We drafted the email together. We attached a single document from Nina's drive, a strategy memo, where Nina explicitly described how they would manipulate the Skyline executives using the sympathy card regarding the compliance officer's disability. We sent it directly to the CEO of Skyline Aero. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. By 10 o'clock the next morning, Skyline Aero had issued a press release. Skyline. Aero is suspending all business relations with Helix Meridian Holdings, effective immediately, pending an investigation into unethical marketing practices. We are deeply disturbed by allegations that disability was exploited for commercial gain. We stand for integrity, not manipulation. The Helix stock plummeted 12% in an hour. At 11 o'clock, a security guard escorted Nina Brooks out of the building. I watched from the glass wall of the conference room. She was carrying a cardboard box. She was crying, her mascara running in dark streaks down her face. She looked up and saw me watching her. She stopped. She opened her mouth to scream something, but the guard pushed her forward. I did not smile. I did not wave. I just watched her disappear through the revolving doors. Her career was over, in the PR world. Being branded a manipulator who cost a firm its biggest client was a death sentence. She would never work in this town again. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Logan. What the hell did you do? Skyline just pulled the contract. Nina is fired. Fix this. I looked at the phone. I typed a reply. But I did not send it. I'm just getting started. I deleted the draft. I put the phone in my pocket. Nina had fallen. She was the first domino. Now, it was time for the others. I looked toward the corner office where Serena Vale sat, the woman I was never supposed to be. You are next, I whispered to the glass. The river was the color of slate, moving slow and thick under the overcast Chicago sky. I sat at a corner table in the gray current, a coffee shop that smelled of roasted beans and damp wool. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The place was empty, save for a barista who looked more interested in his phone than the customers. I checked the time on my phone. Serena Vale was never late. Precisely at 3 minutes past the hour. The door chimed. Serena walked in. She was not wearing her usual armor of bright, aggressive power suits. Today, she wore a trench coat belted tightly at the waist and dark sunglasses, which she removed only after she sat down opposite me. Her face was pale, stripped of the contouring and highlighter she usually wore to catch the boardroom lights. She looked human. It was unsettling. "You picked a gloomy spot," she said. Her voice was low, scratching against the quiet of the shop. "I picked a spot with no cameras," I replied. I did not order her a coffee. This was not a social call. Serena looked out at the river. Her hands were clasped on the table, her manicure perfect, blood red and sharp. "I used to love that line," she said suddenly, not looking at me. "The one Logan used, 'She will never be you.'" She turned her gaze to me, and her eyes were cold, dark pools. "He used to whisper it to me in bed, you know, before he married you. When he was panicked that marrying a deaf woman would ruin his image as a dynamic executive, he would come to my apartment, drink too much scotch, and tell me that I was the real partner, that you were just optics." "I know," I said. "I heard him say it on the roof." "It made me feel powerful," Serena admitted. A bitter smile twisted her lips. "It made me feel like I was the one holding the leash. I thought I was the queen on the chessboard, and you were just a pawn." She laughed, a short, dry sound. "Now I realize there is no queen. There are only pawns, and the king is just a liar in a nice suit." "I am not here to discuss Logan's pillow talk," I said. I placed my hands flat on the table. "I am here to discuss the $40 million missing from the client escrow accounts. The money you know about." Serena flinched. It was microscopic, a tightening of the jaw, a flicker of the eyelids, but I caught it. "I cannot help you with that," she said, her voice hardening back into legal precision. "Attorney-client privilege." "Privilege does not cover the commission of a crime," I countered. "You know Logan and Brent are churning the accounts through shell companies. Tariq told us everything, but you stayed silent. Why?" "Serena, you are the general counsel. Your job is to protect the firm, not the CFO." Serena sighed. She reached into her bag and pulled out a slim silver cigarette case, then remembered where she was and put it back. "Because I have a skeleton too, Faith. And Logan has the bones." She leaned in, lowering her voice. 6 years ago, before you arrived, there was an incident. A junior analyst filed a sexual harassment claim against a senior partner. It was ugly, credible, but the partner was bringing in 20% of the firm's revenue. I was an associate then, hungry for the general counsel seat. I buried it. I stared at her. "You buried a harassment claim." "I drafted the settlement," she corrected. "I structured the NDA so tight the girl could not even tell her therapist. I saved my partner. I saved the firm's reputation. And in exchange, I got the promotion. But if that comes out, if the Illinois bar finds out I coerced a witness, I lose my license, I will go to jail." She looked at me, her eyes pleading for the first time. "Logan has the original file. He keeps it as insurance. That is why I let him loot the accounts. Mutually assured destruction." I nodded slowly. It was a stalemate, a perfect circle of corruption. "That is a compelling story," I said. "But the game has changed." I reached into my tote bag and pulled out a single sheet of paper. It was a printout from the encrypted drive Nina had given me. I slid it across the table. "This is a draft of that settlement agreement," I said, "with your handwritten notes in the margins instructing the partner on how to intimidate the victim. Nina kept everything. Serena, she was a hoarder of secrets." Serena stared at the paper. Her face went gray. She reached for it, but I put my hand over it. "I have the digital original," I said. And I have sent a copy to a dead man's switch on a secure server. If anything happens to me, or if I do not get what I want, this goes to the Bar Association." Serena sat back. She looked defeated. The arrogance drained out of her, leaving a tired, frightened woman. "You have me by the throat," she whispered. "I do." I agreed. "But I can loosen the grip. I do not want you. Serena, I want Logan, and I want the board." "What do you want?" "I want the files on the merger," I said. "The Skyline deal fell through, but Logan is pushing a new acquisition, a company called Vortex Data. Why?" Serena closed her eyes. "Because Vortex is insolvent. It is a debt trap, but the CEO of Vortex is Logan's cousin. They are inflating the valuation. Logan plans to have Helix acquire Vortex for $200 million. Half of that will go to pay off Vortex's debts, and the other $100 million will be split between Logan, Brent, and the cousin as a consulting fee. It is a raid. They are going to gut Helix and walk away with the cash before the stock collapses. And the board does not know. The board sees a glossy prospectus about synergy and future tech," Serena said. "They trust Logan, and they trust you. Your signature is already on the due diligence reports." My blood ran cold. He had used me again. "There is something else," Serena said. She hesitated, looking at the river. "The woman, the her in the sentence, you think it is me, but it is not." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "He was talking to you." "He was comparing you to me," Serena said. "But the standard ghost he is chasing is Eleanor." Eleanor Ward," Serena said. "Elias Ward's daughter." I knew Elias Ward. He was the oldest member of the board, a kind man with Parkinson's, who always asked about my health. I knew he had lost a daughter years ago. Eleanor was Logan's fiancée before me, Serena revealed. 10 years ago, she was brilliant, sharp, destined to take over her father's seat on the board. Logan loved the power she represented, but then there was the accident. She paused. Logan was driving the car behind her. They were racing. He clipped her bumper, just a tap, but at 80 miles per hour she spun out. She died instantly. I covered my mouth. He killed her. Ideally, yes. Legally, no, Serena said. There were no witnesses. He told the police she swerved to avoid a deer, but he knows. And he knows that if Elias ever found out the truth, Logan would be destroyed. So he spends his life performing penance. He married you, a disabled woman, because it played into Elias's grief. You are the living reminder of the daughter he lost. Logan uses you to manipulate Elias's vote. Every time Elias looks at you, he sees Eleanor, and he forgives Logan. I felt sick, physically ill. The layers of manipulation were so deep they were suffocating. I was not just a shield for fraud. I was a prop in a psychodrama about guilt and murder. "He is a monster," I whispered. "He is a survivalist," Serena corrected. "And right now, he is cornered. Nina is gone. Skyline is gone. He knows you are talking to someone. I saw a private investigator outside your hotel this morning, a man in a gray sedan. Logan is digging. Faith, he is looking for dirt to discredit you. He is going to say you are mentally unstable, that you have a history of paranoia. Let him try," I said. "I have this." I tapped the paper on the table. "Here is the deal," I said. "You give me the unredacted Vortex merger files. You give me the proof that Logan hid the debt from the board. In exchange, when I go to the authorities, I will emphasize that you were coerced. I will frame your involvement as a duress. You might lose your job, Serena, but you will keep your license and you will stay out of prison." Serena nodded slowly. "I can do that. One more thing," I added. "What?" "You have to testify," I said. "To the board. Marjorie Kane is calling a special session tomorrow. I want you there." "I cannot be in that room with him," Serena said, panic flaring in her eyes. "He will destroy me." "Do it by video," I said. "But you have to say it. You have to look Elias Ward in the eye and tell him that Logan Pierce called his wife a prop and his compliance officer a scapegoat. You have to confirm that the compliance structure was designed to fail." Serena looked at her hands. She twisted the platinum ring on her right hand. She was weighing her life. On one side, the man she had protected for years. On the other, the woman she had looked down on. "If I do this," she said softly, "there is no going back. I burn everything." "Everything is already burning, Serena," I said. "The only question is whether you want to be in the fire or holding the hose." She took a deep breath. She reached into her bag and pulled out a tablet. She tapped on it for a moment, then slid it across the table. "Transferring the files now," she said. "The Vortex financials, the email threads where Logan discusses hiding the debt, and the original police report from Eleanor's accident, the one he paid to have suppressed." I watched the progress bar on my phone. "Download complete." "Thank you," I said. I stood up. I left the draft of her NDA on the table. "Burn that," I said. Serena did not move. She sat there, a statue in a trench coat, watching the river flow by. I walked out of the coffee shop. The gray sedan was there, parked across the street. I saw the silhouette of a man behind the wheel. Logan's hound. I did not run. I took a photo of his license plate and sent it to Dana. Let him watch. I thought, he is witnessing his own funeral. That night, at 11:45. My phone pinged. It was an email from Serena. Subject affidavit. Attached was a signed, notarized legal statement. In it, Serena Vale admitted to knowledge of the fraud and testified that Logan Pierce had explicitly designed the compliance protocols to bypass my review, exploiting my hearing loss. It was the final nail. I put the phone down and looked out the window of my hotel room. I imagined Serena in her penthouse, standing in front of her bathroom mirror. I could picture it clearly, the marble counter, the bright, unforgiving lights. I imagined her taking a cotton pad soaked in remover and wiping away the red lipstick, the foundation, the sharp eyeliner, scrubbing away the Serena that Logan had created, the Serena who was complicit and cold. I imagined her looking at her bare face tired, aging, frightened, but clean. For the first time in a decade, she was not her either. She was just herself. And she had finally chosen a side. I turned off the light. The chessboard was set. Tomorrow, I will play the king. The private meeting room at the Standard Club on Wacker Drive smelled of old money and furniture polish. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, and the city below was already grinding into motion. But here, the silence was heavy and expensive. I sat across from Marjorie Kane and Elias Ward. Marjorie was exactly as she appeared in the annual reports. Immaculate silver hair, a suit that cost more than my first car, and eyes that assessed human value like a jeweler assesses diamonds. Elias was different. He was the longest-serving member of the board, a man in his late 70s battling the early stages of Parkinson's disease. His left hand, resting on the mahogany table, trembled with a persistent, rhythmic rattle. Rat-tat-tat. It was the only sound in the room besides the hum of the ventilation. I placed a thin manila folder on the table. "This is the executive summary," I said. My voice was steady. I was not using the deaf accent. I was using my compliance voice. It details 3 shell companies registered in the Cayman Islands, Alpha 1, Beta 2, and Vortex Holdings. Over the last 18 months, $12 million has been transferred from the Helix client escrow accounts into these entities under the guise of consulting fees and market research. Marjorie picked up the file. She did not open it immediately. She looked at me. "You are accusing your husband of embezzlement," she said. It was a statement, not a question. "I am accusing the chief financial officer of Helix Meridian of embezzlement," I corrected her. "The fact that he is my husband is a conflict of interest that I'm resolving by bringing this directly to the chair." Elias leaned forward. The movement was slow, deliberate, fighting against the stiffness of his own body. His eyes, however, were sharp, clear, and dangerously intelligent. "And your signature?" Elias asked. His voice was thin but precise. "It is on the approval forms. Faith, we checked the logs this morning." "My digital signature is there," I admitted. "But the metadata shows those approvals were timestamped at hours when I was documented to be elsewhere, at physical therapy, at fundraising dinners, or asleep." Logan Pierce used my access credentials. He relied on the fact that no one would question the devoted husband helping his disabled wife with her workload. I paused, letting the implication land. "He used my deafness as a security clearance," I said. "He assumed I would not hear the phone calls where he authorized the transfers. He assumed I was a silent, decorative object, a rubber stamp." I did not show them the Serena affidavit yet. I did not show them the recording from the rooftop. I was giving them the light version. I needed to see if they were interested in the truth, or if they were just looking for a way to bury the scandal. Marjorie flipped through the pages. Her face remained impassive. "This is serious, Faith, but right now, it is your word against his, and he is the CFO who just delivered a 20% return last quarter. You are a compliance officer who just had brain surgery." Elias watched me. "If we open an official investigation, everything comes out. The press will tear this company apart, and they will tear you apart. Are you ready to put your entire career on the table because if you are wrong, or if you cannot prove this beyond a shadow of a doubt, we will have to fire you to protect the share price?" I looked at his trembling hand. I thought about his daughter, Eleanor, the girl Logan had killed and erased. "I am not doing this for my career," I said. "I am doing this because I am the only person in this building who can hear the train coming before it hits us." Marjorie closed the folder. "Go home. Faith, do not come to the office. We will review this. We will call you." It was a dismissal. By the time I got back to my hotel room, the counterattack had begun. Logan was not going to go down quietly. He was a street fighter in a bespoke suit, and he had launched a nuclear strike on my credibility. My phone blew up with notifications. Google alert. Faith Turner Helix. I clicked the link. It was a sponsored article on a financial gossip blog called The Street Whispers. The headline made bile rise in my throat. "The Silent Grifter. How one woman faked a disability to spy on Chicago's elite." I read the article, my hands shaking. It was a masterpiece of fiction. It claimed that my hearing loss had never been profound, that I had exaggerated my condition for years to gain sympathy and access. It cited anonymous sources close to the family, who claimed I was a paranoid narcissist who used a cochlear implant surgery as a cover story to suddenly hear and blackmail my husband for a larger divorce settlement. Then came the email. It was from a generic Gmail account, sent to the entire Helix board of directors, BCCing me. Attached was a PDF labeled Medical Evaluation, Faith Pierce, Confidential. I opened it. It was a forgery. It looked like a report from Dr. Aris, my surgeon. But the text was twisted. It described post-surgical psychosis, paranoid delusions, and a break from reality. It recommended immediate psychiatric intervention. Logan, he had paid someone to forge a medical record. He was gaslighting me on an industrial scale. My phone rang. It was Dana. "Do not look at Twitter," she said immediately. "I already did," I said. "They are destroying you." "Faith," Dana said, her voice tight. "There is a hashtag, faking faith. People are saying you are a gold digger who played the long con. My paralegal just found a thread on Reddit where they are posting your hotel address. You need to move." "He is winning," I whispered. "He is turning the truth into a conspiracy theory." "He is drowning out the signal with noise," Dana said. "It is a classic PR strategy. If the witness is crazy, the evidence does not matter." "Faith, maybe we should pause. We can file a defamation suit. Get an injunction. If you go into a board meeting now, they will look at you and see a mental patient." I hung up. I felt small. I felt the silence creeping back in, not the peaceful silence of my deafness, but the suffocating silence of being unheard. I walked to the window, down on the street. I saw people walking by. I wondered if they were looking up at my window. I wondered if they thought I was a liar. A chime from my laptop. An email from Helix HR. Subject: administrative leave. Dear Mrs. Pierce, given the recent concerns regarding your health and the circulating rumors, the executive committee has decided to place you on mandatory paid administrative leave. Effective immediately. Your access to company servers has been suspended. They cut me off. I tried to log into my work email. Access denied. I sat on the floor, my back against the wall. I was locked out, slandered, isolated. Logan had played this perfectly. He knew exactly how to leverage the corporate immune system to reject a foreign body, and I was the foreign body. Then, my personal phone buzzed. It was a number I did not recognize, a local 312 area code. I picked it up. Hello? They say I'm losing my mind too. You know. The voice was thin, shaky, but distinct. Elias Ward. Mr. Ward, I asked. Please, call me Elias, he said. I saw the medical report they sent around. Very detailed, very damning. It is a lie, I said. It is a forgery. I know, Elias said. I called your surgeon myself. He was quite upset to hear his letterhead was being used for fiction. I let out a breath I did not know I was holding. You checked. I am old, Faith, and my hands shake. But I'm not an idiot, Elias said. People look at me and they see Parkinson's. They see the tremor and they assume the brain is shaking too. They talk slower to me. They try to manage me. They think I'm feeble. I heard the rustle of fabric on the other end. Logan thinks I am a sentimental old fool who sees his dead daughter in you, Elias continued. He thinks he can manipulate me with pity. He thinks I will protect him because he is the son I never had. But he forgot one thing. What is that? I loved my daughter, Elias said. His voice cracked, just for a second, before hardening into steel. And I know a predator when I see one. I saw how he looked at you in that meeting this morning. He did not look at you like a worried husband. He looked at you like a man looking at a loose thread that could unravel his expensive suit. He is winning, Elias, I said. The internet, the PR. Noise, Elias said. It is all just noise. Do not let him make you doubt your own reality. If you stop now, you are just the poor, deaf wife who had a breakdown. You are the tragedy he wants you to be. But if you walk into that room tomorrow and stand your ground, you are the whistleblower. Tomorrow, I asked. Marjorie and I just got off the phone, Elias said. We are calling a special session, tomorrow at 10 o'clock. The full board. Logan will be there. We have summoned him to answer the allegations. He will spin it, I said. He will bring lawyers. He will lie. Then bring the truth, Elias said. Marjorie is on the fence. She cares about the stock price. You have to show her that keeping Logan is more expensive than firing him. You have to show us the body. Faith. I will, I said. Good, Elias said. And Faith. Yes. When you come tomorrow, leave the dummy hearing aids at home. Let them see you hearing everything. The line went dead. I sat there for a moment, the phone warm in my hand. The fear was still there, but the paralysis was gone. I called Dana back. Get the paperwork ready, I said. We are going to war. What changed? Dana asked. I got a call from the inside, I said. Marjorie is calling a special session tomorrow. A showdown, Dana said. Okay, if we do this, we need ground rules. We cannot walk into an ambush. I know, I said. Draft the demand letter. I want these conditions met, or I will go straight to the FBI before the meeting starts. I listed them out, my voice sharp and clear in the quiet hotel room. Condition 1. The meeting must be recorded, with full minutes taken by an independent stenographer, no off-the-record chats. Condition 2. My legal counsel, you must be present in the room. Condition 3. Any motion regarding the employment of the CFO must be voted on immediately at the conclusion of the presentation. No recess, no time for him to whip votes or make deals. And one more thing, I added. Video conferencing must be enabled. Why? Dana asked. Who are we calling? A ghost. I said. Serena Vale. I hung up and walked to the mirror. I looked at the woman who had been called a grifter, a liar, a gold digger. I looked at the scar behind my ear where the surgeon had sliced me open to give me back the world. Logan thought he could bury me under a mountain of lies. He thought he could use my history of silence to silence me again. He was wrong. I went to my bag and took out the dummy hearing aids. I held them over the trash can. I let them drop. They hit the plastic liner with a soft thud. Thud. I did not need to hide anymore. Tomorrow, I would walk into that boardroom, and I would not just be the woman who heard them. I would be the voice that ended them. The apartment Dana had secured for me was a grim little studio overlooking the loop, right next to the elevated train tracks. It smelled of industrial cleaner and desperation. Every 12 minutes, a train would thunder past, shaking the window pane in its frame. The sound was a violent, metallic screech steel grinding against steel, wheels clattering over joints followed by the hiss of pneumatic brakes. Screech, clatter, hiss, for 9 years. This apartment would have been silent to me. I would have felt the vibration in the floorboards, the trembling of the water in my glass, but the violence of the noise would have been lost. Now, it assaulted me. It filled the room. It felt like a warning. I sat at the small, wobbly table, staring at my phone. The screen was the only light in the room. I had the audio files lined up in a playlist I had titled The Evidence. I pressed play. She will never be her. Logan's voice, smooth and arrogant, mixing with the wind on the rooftop. I pressed skip. Just make her look happy. We need the disability angle. Nina's voice, professional and dismissive. I pressed skip. I buried it. I saved my partner. Serena's voice, cold and resigned. I listened to them over and over again. Each file was a distinct cut, slicing through the illusion of the life I thought I had led. I needed to hear them. I needed to memorize the cadence of their betrayal so that tomorrow, when I looked them in the eye, I would not blink. My phone rang. The screen lit up with a photo of my mother, a picture taken at my wedding where she looked happier than I had ever seen her. I hesitated. I knew what this call was. Logan would have called her. He would have spun his story. I answered. Hello, Mom? Faith, she sobbed. Her voice was high and thin, ragged with tears. Oh, Faith, what are you doing? Logan called me. He said you are having a breakdown. He said you ran away. I am not having a breakdown. Mom, I said. My voice was steady, surprising even me. I left him. He is a criminal. Mom, he has been lying to me. He has been stealing from the company. Stop it, my mother pleaded. Just stop it. You are confused. The doctor said this might happen. Logan loves you. Faith. He has taken care of you for 5 years. He learned sign language for you. Do you know how rare that is? I gripped the phone tighter. He learned sign language to manipulate me. Mom, please do not talk to me. You are being ungrateful, she cried. You are 34 years old. Faith, you are deaf. Do you know how hard it is to find a man who accepts a woman with your challenges? Do you think it is easy to find someone who is willing to take that on? He gave you a life. He gave you security. Do not throw it away because of some paranoia. The words hit me harder than the train noise outside. Take that on. As if I were a burden, as if I were a heavy piece of luggage that Logan had graciously agreed to carry. I realized then that the cage I had been living in was not just built by Logan. It had been built by everyone who loved me. They had all treated my deafness as a defect that required compensation, and Logan's love was the charity that balanced the ledger. I am not a burden. Mom, I said. The anger in my chest was hot and clean. And I do not need him to accept me. I do not need anyone to tolerate my existence in exchange for my obedience. Faith, please. No. I cut her off. I want respect, and if I cannot have that, I would rather be alone. I would rather be deaf and alone for the rest of my life than be a pet in a golden cage. I have to go. I hung up. I blocked the number. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. Harder than pouring the wine. Harder than walking out of the rooftop dinner. I sat there in the dim light, breathing hard. The train roared past again. Screech, clatter, then a soft sound, a rustle. It came from the door. I froze. I turned my head. A white rectangle was sliding under the gap between the door and the floor. I waited. I listened for footsteps. I heard a heavy boot tread moving away down the hallway, slow and deliberate. I walked to the door. I did not open it. I picked up the envelope. It was plain white, no stamp, no return address. My name was scrawled on the front in black marker. I opened it. Inside was a photograph. It was grainy, taken from a distance with a zoom lens. It showed me walking out of the hotel 2 nights ago, my head down, looking terrified. On the back of the photo, in handwriting, I recognized instantly the same jagged, rushed scrawl that used to leave love notes on the bathroom mirror was a message. Tomorrow, if you speak one more word, I will ensure no one ever wants to hear you again. I can put you in a facility. Faith, I have the medical reports. I have the power. Go home. It was not just a threat. It was a promise of erasure. He was threatening to institutionalize me, to use the very medical system that had given me my hearing back to lock me away. My phone buzzed. A text from Dana. The board secretary just sent the agenda. You are up first. 10 o'clock sharp. Faith, are you sure about this? If you want to back out, we can file a whistleblower complaint anonymously. We can delay. It is safer. I looked at the photo in my hand. I looked at the threat scrawled in black ink. If I backed down, I would be safe. I could disappear. I could move to another city, change my name, go back to being the quiet girl in the back office. But then I thought about the pension funds. I thought about the thousands of employees at Helix whose retirement savings were being churned through Logan's shell companies. I thought about Eleanor Ward, dying in a car crash so Logan could cover his tracks. He was not just a bad husband, he was a predator. He had a disease in the system. I typed a reply to Dana. Me no delays. If I stop now, he wins. He hurts people. Dana. He consumes them. I am not going to be the one who lets him do it to someone else. I put the phone down. It was midnight. The city outside was finally starting to quiet down, the roar of the trains spacing out. I reached up behind my left ear. I felt the plastic curve of the processor, the magnet that connected me to the world of sound. I pulled it off. The world vanished. The hum of the refrigerator gone, the distant siren gone, the rattle of the window gone. I was back. I sat in the absolute, profound silence that had been my home for 9 years, for the first time in 3 weeks. My brain stopped vibrating. The anxiety that had been buzzing in my nerves settled. This silence used to feel like a prison. Tonight, it felt like a sanctuary. It felt like a fortress. I closed my eyes and breathed. In the silence, I could not hear Logan's voice. I could not hear Nina's lies. I could not hear my mother's fear. I could only hear myself. I thought about the sentence that had started it all. You will never be her. He was right. I would never be Serena, the cold, compromised lawyer who sold her soul for a seat at the table. I would never be Eleanor, the tragic ghost he used for sympathy. And I would never be the perfect wife, the silent doll he had constructed. I was Faith Turner. I was broken. Yes, I had scars. I had to work twice as hard to understand the world. But I was whole. I opened my eyes. The room was dark, but I saw everything clearly. I took a piece of hotel stationery and a pen. I wrote 2 sentences. I did not write them for the board. I did not write them for Logan. I wrote them for myself. I am no longer a prop. I am a witness. I folded the paper into a tiny square. I walked over to my suit jacket hanging on the back of the chair, the navy blue one, sharp and tailored, the armor I would wear into battle. I slipped the paper into the inside pocket, right over my heart. I did not put the hearing device back on. Not yet. I wanted to sleep in the silence one last time. I wanted to remember what it felt like to be unreachable. I climbed into the stiff, unfamiliar bed. I closed my eyes. I slept without dreams. Deep and black and silent. When I woke up, the sun was cutting through the grime on the window. I showered. I dressed. I pulled my hair back so tight it pulled at my temples. I applied my makeup with surgical precision, no softening, no contouring to look gentle. I wanted to look sharp. I picked up the processor. I clicked the magnet into place. Whir. Hum. Click. The world rushed back in. The sound of the shower dripping. The sound of my own breath. I walked out of the apartment. I took a cab to the Helix Tower. The lobby was a cavern of echoes. Footsteps. Phones ringing. The revolving door swooshing. I walked through it all. A ghost returning to haunt the castle. I stepped into the elevator. I was alone. I pressed the button for the boardroom floor. The doors slid shut, sealing me in. The elevator began to rise. Ting, floor 10. Ting, floor 20. Ting, floor 30. Each chime was a heartbeat. Each floor was a step closer to the end of my life as I knew it. I stood perfectly still. My hands balled into fists at my sides. I could feel the piece of paper in my pocket burning against my ribs. I am a witness. Ting, floor 40. The doors opened. The hallway stretched out before me, lined with expensive art and terrified assistants. At the end of the hall, the double mahogany doors of the boardroom were closed. Behind them, the wolves were waiting. I took a breath. I stepped out of the elevator. The sound of my heels on the marble floor was sharp, deliberate, and loud. Click, clack. I was not sneaking up on them this time. I was announcing my arrival. The boardroom of Helix Meridian was a glass cage suspended in the sky. The air inside was filtered, cool, and smelled faintly of lemon polish and expensive leather. At the head of the 20-foot mahogany table sat Marjorie Kane. She looked like a statue carved from ice, her hands clasped over a pristine notepad. To her right sat Elias Ward. His Parkinson's was bad today. His hand vibrated against the wood, creating a tiny rhythmic tapping sound. Tap, tap, tap. It sounded like a clock counting down. Logan sat on the left side of the table. He was flanked by his personal attorney, a sharp-faced man named Silas who billed $800 an hour. Opposite them, I sat with Dana Ruiz. The room was silent, but to me, it was deafening. I could hear the hum of the projector cooling fan. I could hear the scratch of a pen. I could hear the shallow, rapid breathing of the stenographer in the corner. "We are here to address serious allegations," Marjorie said. Her voice was flat. "But before we review the evidence, Mr. Pierce has requested to make a statement." Logan stood up. He buttoned his suit jacket. He looked devastatingly handsome and utterly heartbroken. He looked at the board members with soulful, weary eyes. "Thank you, Marjorie," Logan said. His voice was a rich baritone, perfectly modulated for sympathy. "I want to apologize. I apologize that my wife's mental health crisis has become a corporate distraction. As you know, Faith underwent experimental brain surgery 3 weeks ago. We were hopeful, but the side effects have been tragic." He glanced at me, a look of profound pity on his face. "She is suffering from post-surgical paranoia," Logan continued. "She believes there are conspiracies everywhere. She faked deafness for years. It is absurd. It is a delusion. And now, she has illegally recorded private conversations and edited them to fit this narrative. My lawyer tells me this is a clear violation of the Illinois Eavesdropping Act, but I do not want to press charges. I just want to get my wife the help she needs." Silas, the lawyer, nodded gravely. "We have medical affidavits suggesting Mrs. Pierce is unfit to testify. We move to dismiss these proceedings and place her in a care facility." The room shifted. I saw doubt in the eyes of the board members. Logan was good. He was so good he almost made me doubt myself. Marjorie turned to me. "Faith, do you have anything to say before we vote on the motion to dismiss?" I started to stand up. Logan leaned in. He moved quickly, invading my space under the guise of helping me with my chair. He brought his face close to my ear. He thought I was wearing the dummy hearing aids. He thought I was relying on lip reading. He thought he was safe. He smiled at the board, but through his teeth, he hissed a whisper meant only for me. "Make it good, darling. You will never be Serena." I froze. The words hung in the air between us. I did not sit back down. I stood up straight. I looked him in the eye. I reached up behind my ear. With a deliberate, slow movement, I unhooked the processor of my cochlear implant. I held it in my hand for a second, letting him see it. Then, I placed it on the mahogany table. Click. The sound was small, but it echoed like a gunshot. "Good," I said. My voice was not the deaf voice. It was clear. It was sharp. It projected to the back of the room. "So let us start with a fact. I am hearing every single word you say." Logan's face went slack. The color drained out of him so fast, he looked like he had been embalmed. "He just told me I would never be Serena," I announced to the room. "He whispered it because he thought I was still his prop. But I am done being a prop." I nodded to Dana. Dana hit the spacebar on her laptop. The speakers in the ceiling crackled to life. It was the recording from the rooftop. Logan's voice filled the room, amplified and undeniable. "She will never be her, but the board eats up this pity story with a spoon." Marjorie stiffened. Elias stopped tapping his finger. The recording continued. "I had her sign the restructuring documents this morning. If the SEC comes sniffing around, it is on her head. She cannot hear the object. Faith is soft. She is obedient. She is convenient to control." The audio ended. The silence that followed was heavy, thick with shock. Logan was staring at the table, his jaw working. He looked up, his eyes wild. "It is edited," he stammered. "It is deep fake technology. You know what AI can do these days?" "Let us look at the math," I said. "AI cannot fake a bank transfer." Dana changed the slide. A complex flowchart appeared on the main screen. It showed the flow of $40 million from Helix escrow accounts into 3 shell companies: Alpha 1, Beta 2, and Vortex. "These are the companies Logan and Brent Cole control," I explained, pointing to the screen. The dates of the transfers matched the dates my digital signature was used while I was at physical therapy. And here is where the money went. I clicked the next slide. It showed the payouts, massive bonuses paid to offshore accounts held by Logan Pierce. "He was not just stealing," I said. "He was looting the ship before he sank it." "Lies," Logan shouted. He stood up, knocking his chair back. "She is working with competitors. She is trying to tank the stock price." "Sit down." "Logan," Marjorie said. Her voice was nice. "We have one more witness," I said. "She could not be here in person due to safety concerns, but she is ready." I looked at the screen. "Connect her." The monitor flickered. Then, a face appeared. It was Serena Vale. She looked different. She was wearing a simple white shirt. Her face was scrubbed clean of makeup. She looked tired, but her eyes were steady. A gasp went around the room. Serena was the golden girl. Her defect was unthinkable. "Ms. Vale," Marjorie said, "you understand you are under oath." "I do," Serena said. Her voice came through the speakers, tinny but firm. "Tell us what you know," I said. "I drafted the compliance overrides," Serena stated. "At the request of Logan Pierce, he explicitly instructed me to design a workflow that bypassed Faith Turner's actual review. He told me, and I quote, 'It does not matter what is in the papers. As long as the deaf girl signs them, we are clean.' He used her disability as a legal shield." Logan turned purple. He pointed a shaking finger at the screen. "You traitor, you are just angry because I married her instead of you. This is a lover's quarrel." "Marjorie, she has been obsessed with me for 10 years. Serena looked at him through the camera lens. She did not flinch. She did not look angry. She looked bored. "Logan," she said, her voice cutting through his shouting, "you were never my lover. You were a liability that walked on 2 legs. I protected you because I was afraid of you. I am not afraid anymore." The screen went black. Logan stood there, panting. He looked at his lawyer, but Silas had closed his notebook. The lawyer moved his chair a few inches away from Logan. "I have one final document," I said. I slid the Vortex merger file toward Elias Ward. "This is the deal he was pushing for next week," I said. He was going to have Helix acquire a bankrupt company owned by his cousin for $200 million. It would have wiped out the pension fund. Elias opened the file. He read the first page. His hand shook violently, rattling the paper. He looked up at Logan. The old man's eyes were wet with rage. "You violated your fiduciary duty," Elias whispered. "You tried to kill this company." Marjorie Kane stood up. She smoothed her skirt. She looked at the stenographer. "We will take a 5-minute recess," she said. "No," I said. Marjorie froze. She looked at me. "No recess," I repeated. "We vote now. If you leave this room, he will make calls. He will destroy evidence. He will spin this. You have the evidence. You have the witness. You have the victim. Vote now." Marjorie looked at Elias. Elias nodded. She looked at the other 6 members of the board. They all nodded. Marjorie sat back down. She looked at Logan. "Motion to terminate Logan Pierce from the role of Chief Financial Officer for cause. Effective immediately," she said. "Motion to claw back all unvested stock options. Motion to refer this entire file to the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Department of Justice." "Seconded," Elias said. "All in favor." Every hand in the room went up. "The motion carries," Marjorie said. "You cannot do this," Logan screamed. It was a primal sound, a howl of a man watching his empire dissolve. "I built this. You are nothing without me. I am Helix." He slammed his fist onto the table. The water pitcher jumped. "Security," Marjorie said into the intercom. Logan turned to me. His eyes were red, bulging. The charm was gone. The mask was gone. There was only the predator. "You," he snarled. He lunged across the table. Chairs scattered. Dana screamed. "It is all your fault," he roared, reaching for me. "You ungrateful, broken little witch I made you." 2 security guards burst through the doors. They tackled him before he could reach me. They slammed him against the paneled wall. His face pressed against the wood, distorted and ugly. I did not flinch. I did not step back. I stood perfectly still, watching him struggle, watching the saliva fly from his mouth as he cursed me. "I made you," he screamed again. "No," I said softly, though I knew he could not hear me over his own rage. "You only made me quiet, and now I am done with that." They dragged him out. The doors closed. The silence returned to the room, but this time, it was not heavy. It was empty. It was clean. Marjorie looked at me. She looked tired. "We will appoint an independent compliance committee," she said. "We will need you to lead the transition. Faith, you will have full whistleblower protection." "I will consult," I said. "But I am not staying. I am not the compliance officer anymore." I picked up my cochlear processor from the table. I clipped it back onto my ear. The world came back online. I turned and walked out of the boardroom. I walked down the long hallway. I passed the terrified assistants. I passed the portraits of the founders. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the lobby. When the doors opened on the ground floor, the sound of the city rushed in to meet me. But it was different now. I could hear sirens in the distance, police sirens, getting louder, coming for Logan. I could hear the revolving door spinning. I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the piece of paper I had written the night before. I unfolded it. I read the words one last time. "I am no longer a prop. I am a witness." I looked at the words. They felt small now. They belonged to the woman who had walked into the building an hour ago. I was not just a witness anymore. A witness just watches. I had acted. I crumpled the paper into a ball. I tossed it into a metal trash can by the exit. I pushed through the heavy glass doors and stepped out onto the sidewalk. The wind off Lake Michigan hit my face, cold and bracing. The noise of Chicago was a roar horns, construction, voices, music. It was chaotic. It was messy. It was loud. And it was mine. I lifted my head. I did not look back at the tower. I adjusted my scarf, turned right, and walked into the crowd, letting the symphony of a new life wash over me. Thank you so much for listening to this story. Please comment down below and tell me where you are listening from. I would love to hear your thoughts and connect with you all. Do not forget to subscribe to the Zoe Revenge Stories channel. like this video, and smash that hype button so more people can hear this story.